is ma for how are the children. In the Maasai culture, ma is the language, and asupathy in Kara is the traditional greeting of the Maasai people. And if a Maasai asks you, how are the children, Aisupathy in Kara, they aren't just talking about your own offspring. They're inviting you to tell them about your children, the neighbor's children, the community's children. And once you have answered the question, Aisupathy in Kara, they will ask Aisupathy in Kishu, how are the cattle? How are the cattle always follows after you've answered the question, how are the children? Because cattle is the livelihood, and healthy cattle is an indicator of healthy soil, abundant water, a thriving environment. And the Maasai people greet one another in this way because they know that the well-being of a society can be measured by the health and the well-being of children and creation. Nelson Mandela once said, there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. The Maasai are not simply asking after the health of the child, but of the state of the whole community. The state of the whole community. If the children are well, the world is well. If the children are unwell, the whole world is sick. How are the children, my friends? When children have to forgo their education in hopes of having a future free from climate crisis, something is wrong. When the children of Solomon Islands have to walk into the ocean to protest the rising water levels that threaten their very existence, something is wrong. When the children in the borderlands of Texas and New Mexico and Arizona have their shoelaces taken from them because some as young as 4 years of age have tried to kill themselves in the U.S. detention centers. Something is wrong. When the children wake up to images of their prime minister in brown and black face, something is wrong. When children are under a boil water advisory and live on reserves with mercury poisoning, then something is wrong. When children go hungry and are shot in our city, something is wrong. Jesus said, we sin if we fail to love and care for our neighbor. And a lawyer tried to define the limits of just who that neighbor was. Surely we aren't responsible for all of those children. And that's when Jesus told the story of the Good Samaritan. Now, many have guessed at the motives of the priest and the Levite in that story, who saw that injured child of God, but crossed the road and went a different way, leaving that man to die. Maybe they were too late or too scared or too tired or too ritually pure to stop and help. As the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. put it, in each one of these instances, they were asking the wrong question. When the Levite and the priest saw the person in need, they asked themselves, what will happen to me if I help? And the Samaritan asks, what will happen to them if I don't? What will happen to the children on the Solomon Islands, in the detention centers, on the reserves, in our streets, if we don't act? If we give a modern-day Levite or priestly answer to the plight of our siblings? The situation is complicated, some will say. The children are very far away. Semantics that Jesus would have no time for. The children are lying on our roadsides. We see them every day in this city and around the world on our screens. But I fear that when preaching, we Christians tend to get a bit heavy-handed when it comes to the gospel. If it's such good news, then why do so many of our sermons induce feelings of guilt and shame? Why do I feel like right now I should stop everything and invite you all to join me at the Dark Horse Pub, where we hopeless sinners could drown our sorrows in a forget-that-sermon whiskey? If it's good news, then where is the good news in all of this? See, the beauty of the Messiah question is in the complexity of its answer. The Messiah know that all of life is interdependent. It's never binary, us or them. The priest, the Levite, the Good Samaritan, they were asking the very same question. What will happen to me and what will happen to them are flip sides of the same coin. If I sit in a leaky rowboat with my neighbor, but the hole is at the end of their side of the boat, then I still must be concerned with how to plug it. How are the children? How are the cattle? Will lead me to the answer, how am I? If the children are well, the world is well. And there is so much to mine in this question, how are the children? For in order to begin to even answer it, you have to actually observe the children. And when you do, when you do, you see them over 1 million strong marching on Friday for their future. How are the children? Oh, they are determined. They are hopeful. They are motivated to change us into the people they need us to be. They aren't running from fear or holding up in towers of greed. They are marching towards the future that they expect us to co-create. Jesus once said that the only way to get to the kingdom was to come as a child. Here is the good news that we have been waiting for. In the faith of a child like Greta, we see how mustard seeds move mountains. Those who have been mocking 16-year-old Greta Thunberg might do well to recall, as Diane Butler Bass reminds us, that Joan of Arc led an army, Jane Austen wrote her first work, Sojourner Truth escaped slavery, Anne Frank kept her journal, and Malala got her Nobel Peace Prize at the very same age that Greta is. Young people are fierce when changing the world, for they see through less jaded eyes. They see more possibilities than problems. Tell me what's wrong with the world, and I want to draw the curtains and crawl under the bed covers. Motivate me instead with that childlike wonder at the possibility of being able to shape the future. And suddenly I understand what it means to live the words, "Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Thy will be done." And we will no longer be distracted by fear and despair if we hold the future our children hold, the vision of an abundant future before us. Long ago, in an upper room, Jesus prayed over his disciples, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You have seen the truth. You've seen the way. Whoever believes will do as I have been doing. Whoever believes will do even greater things, because the Holy Spirit will be with you. Because I live, you will also live. So let the children come, and let the little child lead. For God's future is within reach. It's holy. It's healing. It's abundant. It's for all. And that is the good news. Let the people say, Amen.